welcome back. Another episode of the Backdoor Cut, and I'm kind of leaving you in the dark a little bit as to what we're going to talk about, but you have an idea for today's episode. I want to talk about beginnings in the GAA and how you got involved in the GAA and what the GAA means to you. So that all starts at club level, I guess. So first question I will ask is, can you remember the first day that you were brought down to the club for a game of football or a game of hurling?
Go ahead.
I'd be lying if I said I could. I've a vague memory of playing at under probably 8 level. Running about Ballinalack Field. To say definitely my memory's not brilliant when it comes to these things, but I think you remember key moments at that age and things you hold on to. A small memory would be just like mini tournaments playing with your club, and I'll always remember just at a wee blitz winning like a player of the tournament at about 7 or 8 and holding on to that, and that kind of like was something that I kind of always remembered at that age and kind of pushed me on for later years. But don't know what you can say.
I can remember pretty vividly actually the first day and a couple of days in between, but there's a big blur there. But mine was sort of before even club, just with my dad in the house. Like he was still playing football, so I would have been going to watch his games, watching games with him. And then Tyrone, like he's obviously from Tyrone, so a big influence there. And then growing up through the noughties, Tyrone won the All-Irelands, and literally 2000, I was born in 99, Tyrone in 2003, so it was kind of knew sort of what the crack was there. And then I remember just always out with him kicking about. And then whenever I started playing, St. Gall's were one of the only teams that had a team for fundamentals or under 6s or 8s or something, whatever it was. And I went down, and Kevin Bradley, one of my best mates, like he, this is why I remember it. I was like, well, what's your name? He goes, Toyota. I was going, right, so I was running out the house, yes, Toyota, pass. And then, so that stuck with me. So that's why I remember that one. And then I remember just going training in different schools and that, like indoors over the winter and that, but bit of a blur up until maybe a few tournaments, underage tournaments and that, so remember it for strange reasons, like, but I can remember it all right.
Did you play much at primary school level?
I would have played, like I was a very small school. There was only between 50 and 60 in my whole primary school, P1 to P7. There was 5 or 6 in my class. My memories of school football would have been like pretty good. I remember there's always a P4 competition. That would have been my first, where I realised I actually love this. Like, I remember playing with the older lads, like playing with the P7 team when I was P5, and that was massive for me. And I always would have had a serious just want to play Gaelic at that age. And that was probably a good thing, being involved with a school who had really small numbers, because I got to play with older lads and got to be thrown into that environment and had to learn quickly. And yeah, it's good memories, I suppose, at that age, which probably it's surprising enough that I can remember so much from my school days when I was only 7 or 8.
I was similar to that. I don't think we had there would have been people come in coaching when we were in primary school, but I don't think there was an actual team until you were P6, P7. But same as that, could pull into the team when I was P5. And I remember the big thing was there was a tournament and over the weekend or whatever, and you got your jersey and you got to bring a jersey home. It's the first time you had a jersey with a number on it, and it was swinging on me, but going home with his jersey. Started as a corner forward, lads. How times have changed. But I remember going home with that, going, this is unreal. Yeah. And then I playing through school, P5, P6, P7. I was the first inkling of getting out of class to go and play matches, which is great. So it was a wee bit during school, in primary school, only the last couple of years, but same as yourself, just, even when there was coaches coming in, you just wanted to play, and you were wondering why PE you weren't playing Gaelic or whatever, like you were.
Even I just remember having such a keen interest in it from no age. I don't know why that was, or what was kind of driving it at that age, but like out of everyone at my own age group at that, I would have been probably the one who was probably most keen into it for whatever reason. Probably because I suppose it comes back to family as well, and what like my grandfather would have played for Fermanagh, won a junior All Ireland. That was always something I would have. You know, this is so important. Like this is the best thing ever. Like all I want to do is go and play that, and I would have been like thinking about those things from a very young age. But yeah, it's interesting.
Always football, never hurling.
I played hurling as well.
I played hurling as well.
Actually, it was always football first, and I only started playing hurling from. Again, played a wee bit in primary school. I think I only started playing for the club then, maybe when I was P6 or P7, maybe under 12. I started playing for the club in last year under 12, and I went through phases of loving it and hating it, and then just it got to the stage the last year of me playing it, I just hated it and didn't want to be there at all. Like,
funny, my primary school was actually a hurling school, the only hurling school in the whole of Fermanagh. Like I was, as a child, I lived in the town, but this school was like 10 minutes outside of Enniskillen, and the only reason I went to that school was because our neighbours, which was opposite me, was the principal. So we were travelling 15 minutes outside the town to go to primary school. No one could ever get their head around it. This was the only school in the whole of Fermanagh that did hurling. So suddenly we were big into hurling, big into football. So I would have played hurling right up till I was 17, probably 16, 17. Went to 4 failures because like we were the only hurling team, you know, really in the thing. So a lot of my good memories underage were hurling, going to them failures. They were the best memories I probably have at that age. Like going and staying down in Clare and Limerick and Galway and Dublin. We actually reached the club's first ever Féile final as well at my last year, at 14, which was a massive thing for me. It was meant to be going on a family holiday on the Monday. I had to cancel the flights to there and stay on for the final, and ended up getting beat. But yeah,
most of my success in school, secondary school, would have been hurling as well. Like our year group won. I think it was our first to third year I was playing, won Ulster colleges the whole way through. Like I think my year done a full sweep of like first to seventh year, like won everything. Although maybe when they were sixth year, I think they might even won sixth year as well. I think they done a full sweep the whole way through every year, like, which is mental. But I was there for 3 of them.
You're a football head.
Football head, got 1 B football medal, but
Aye.
3 A hurling medals. Like, so I was happy enough with that.
I was always told I was a football head, even when I used to always have to do a lot of convincing. No, I'll be staying with the hurling and the football. But
it depended what mood whatever manager was in. There was one your footballer, or whenever they're stuck for a player, hero, and you're definitely a hurler. I don't think I was ever classed myself as a hurler. Like,
It's mad how different parts of the country have completely different experiences, because I'm probably more similar to Owen's experience, but in the opposite way, in that I didn't touch a Gaelic football till I was 10 years old, but every lunchtime in primary school from the age of 5, 6, it was hurling. Like, because I'm from Tipperary, I remember being dropped down to the club age 6, I'd say, maybe 5 or 6, tiny little pair of red white shorts on me and a hurl with no grip on it, and baiting tires to learn how to pull on the ball. And then I went to primary school in Offaly, where like a very small primary school similar to yours, but hurling, it was hurling, that was it. And it's just interesting how, like, not that far away, but up the country, there can be an experience so different but so similar in a way as well, in that like both of you have experience with hurling, you in particular, but you were more football when you're younger. So it just sounds so foreign to me to see, until I've moved to Dublin and seen it at other clubs, to see 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds playing football, because I just never saw it before.
Yeah. There was, to be fair, even in Belfast, there would have been some clubs would have been mainly hurling clubs. Like even now in Belfast, a lot of clubs are dual clubs, but they'll lean more towards one or the other. Like St John's probably stands out for me. That growing up, they would have had very, very strong hurling teams. They would have been down the fields and all that as well. Because I remember going to the Gaeltacht and that, there was boys they would show up a couple of days late because they were down at the field or whatever.
Yeah.
But all their hurlers, camogues, they were always the strong ones. Like, but I think most other clubs probably would lean more towards the football side of things.
The Féile is something magnificent as well, isn't it? I was lucky to play in 2 Féiles, and it's just mad that you're playing against all these players from all over the country, and from elsewhere as well, like from other countries. But in your mind, when you're playing in the Féile as a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, you are playing in the All Ireland final, the All Ireland
Oh.
Senior Series. Like,
We were in, for context, like, it's from Anna Hurling, so we were in like division maybe 6, 7, maybe one up from the bottom. And in my head, like, this was an all, like, I was about to get an All Ireland medal, like, that was my goal. I was about to achieve it. Thought it was the most important thing in the world, like, which I suppose as a young lad you don't know any different. It's probably the best way to be, but I suppose, like, for me it was the most important thing, and I always thought in my own head that everyone else thought that too outside of the group, which they 100% wouldn't have. But it's, the Féile is an unbelievable competition. I think they've done away with actually the staying over in people's houses, going down, and I guess it has changed now to like a 2 or 3 day thing where you just go for the weekend. But that was probably the best memories I have as a young lad. Like,
was it always GAA for Bodie?
Played a wee bit of soccer, but always GAA mad in our house. Like, remember wanting to play a bit of soccer. Played a wee bit when I was in primary school for the youth club, like, and then played for a club, Rosario, for 2.5, 3 years, like, and just enjoyed it when I was there. But I just knew it was like, nah, this isn't for me. Like, I knew it was always GAA. Like,
it's very, very similar. Now played from about 14 to 16, probably 3 or 4 years I did at it. But like I always knew this isn't what I'm going to be. I was just for a bit of crack. Everyone else was doing it. I actually played in nets for one of the age groups.
Same.
Ended up as a goalkeeper because I was tall and I could fetch a ball. So didn't really enjoy that either. That kind of put me off even further. But nah, I was never going to go down that route. I don't think I had the talent either, to be honest.
I mean, I was okay at it. Like, I suppose the standard, maybe you're playing that, like, again in your head you're going, fuck, this is, you're going to 9 o'clock kick off on a Saturday morning, you're going, this is the
Champions League.
This is Champions League stuff, yeah. Like, and then just hoof the ball and run after it, like, and you were running about midfield thinking you're a Xavi Alonso spraying passes, and they're going, keep it on the grass, and going, nah, I'm hitting pingers here, like. But no, I think you thought you were handy enough, but then as you see other boys playing, you're just going, right, I'm miles away from that, like.
Yeah.
Early specialisation is a hot topic in youth S&C, youth GAA. Are there many of your teammates that you look at and you reckon could have made it big at other sports, or even played a high level of other sports, or maybe are still playing to a high level in other sports? Like, Walter Walsh stands out as someone who was playing underage with Leinster and then obviously playing Kilkenny hurling. I've seen multiple soccer players go through, like Shane Logman's on the Tipperary minor panel, won an All Ireland. Like Alan Tynan, who's playing with Tipperary hurlers now, he was with Munster there to sub academy and academy level. Is that something that crossed your mind ever, whether you were making the right decision going down the GAA route, or is there a benefit to playing more than one sport as a young lad?
I think 100% benefit of it. Like, I think you should be playing as much as you can. But I had it in my head that just everything I wanted to do was just going to be football. Like, I suppose being around our club senior team would have been going very well, and you were always looking at our club senior team going. Just I remember from P7, I just wanted to be a club senior, like, and probably wished away a lot of my younger career just because I want to play senior. And for me, it was like couldn't come quick enough, so I wanted to get out of. I wanted to stop playing soccer, I wanted to stop playing hurling, just go all in the football pretty soon. But parents were saying the same sort of thing. You know, you're going to play these for as long as you can. But then got to the point too where you were out of the house 6-7 days a week at something. You were going from school training to club training 3-4 times a week, and you were just that was before you knew what you're at. And I suppose at that age you're just running about full of energy anyway. But yeah, I had it in my head that I just wanted to play football. Like,
yeah, like I was the same. I was always Gaelic football oriented, like, but I'm also kind of disappointed that I didn't try my hand at, like, never had the opportunity to try, like, with throughout St Michael's, which was my college. Like, we never would have really went and delved into athletics or anything, so I never actually got the opportunity to know whether that was a strong point or not. And then to touch on whether, you know, you think other lads in county setups and stuff, there's 100% there's athletic freaks involved in our county setup and every other county setup that I think anyway would have did well at maybe sprinting or long jump or that side of things. But then again, would that have given them the same fulfillment as playing Gaelic football at the highest level? Probably not. And would they have pushed on and become Olympians? Probably not. So yeah,
It's one thing I would love to get exposure to other sports like rugby. Like, love the idea of rugby. Like, I can remember watching Six Nations, and whenever it was all on, I would love to play it. But I think in Belfast, like, if you're from the West in Belfast, you're not going to play rugby anywhere. Like,
yeah. I actually played rugby for like 2 years, but I was stone useless for that. Like, I wasn't in good shape at that age. It was a wrong
Time.
right sport, wrong time. Like, a lot of people would say to me now, you should go into rugby, or you should have did rugby. It's, yeah, I don't know if that would have.
That is a common thing, though. Well, especially where I'm from, on the border of Tipperary, Laois, Offaly. A lot of the lads that play with Laois, now you mightn't tell them, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but they'll play rugby then in their off season when they're finished playing hurling or football with their club. And I think it complements, the two sports complement each other pretty well in terms of the skills are transferable. And as well as that, it offers a totally different perspective from a totally different group of lads as well, which is probably what you're touching on there as well. Like, it's a totally different group. Do you think that will change in Belfast anytime soon? Do you think more youngsters will get exposure to rugby in the same way that now there are more youngsters getting exposure to GAA?
yeah, I would love to say yes, but from my perspective, I don't see that happening as much. I think from maybe my area anyway, where I'm from, I think it's very much soccer, GAA, hurling. I haven't a clue what's going on in schools these days, if rugby is coming into schools or what, but I know there's definitely a lot more coming into GAA, but for me it was always like, if you're over south side of Belfast, that's, you play your rugby over there, like. But I don't know, I would love to see it, like, I would love to, try your hand at everything, whether it's soccer, boxing, like, sort of, like, everyone's done a boxing session or a karate session or something. Like, I would have loved to have got something into that, or even athletics too. Like, just, I'd have loved to try everything. But I suppose for even younger people, or even myself, if I was being a youngster again, I would love to have the opportunity to try as much as possible. Like,
Yeah, 100%.
Living in Dublin now and being involved with Dublin GAA clubs, I often hear the argument that, well, young lads or young girls, they shouldn't be playing rugby or they shouldn't be playing soccer because we want them playing GAA. But it kind of doesn't sit well with me in a way, because the problem isn't that young people are playing two sports. The problem is that young people are playing no sports.
yeah.
So realistically, it's kind of what we talk about ourselves in regards to market and scarcity and abundance. People are afraid that, well, if they play rugby or they play soccer, that means they'll pick that over football or hurling, and we can't allow that to happen. Whereas they should be thinking, well, let's facilitate them playing other sports, because then they'll be more likely to continue playing GAA if a coach at the other sport says, well, you're not playing both anymore. The side that's pressurising them to pick one is probably the side that's going to get left behind.
Yeah, definitely. There's that. I think there's that element of, you can only. I think recently, the last couple of years, things are going a lot more professional, and it's kind of scary too, because yes, if that was happening when I was there, I'd have been going, class, this is unreal, because I just wanted to play senior football as soon as possible. But when you do see the perspective, you get a bit of perspective and you look back on it, like, it's not, I don't think it's what you should be doing. Like, I know, especially with the soccer side of things, going into the academies and that at a real young age, like, the amount of players that I know personally who have gone through or had trials across the water, and then they come back and just completely fall out of love with it. So I think that early push in the one direction, that early specialisation, it can be damaging more so than encouraging them, like, for maybe unless you're in the sort of top couple of percent, like.
Yeah, that's been a trend as well, I think, probably in most counties around Ireland. Lads who specialise early and they're way over the water really early, they end up just blowing up, and like that level across the water at the higher, at like obviously championship level, Premier League, it's so high. Like, you need to be so invested and driven, and if you're not, then you're more than likely not going to make it, and you're going to end up back chasing your tail in Ireland. And then where do you go from there, really? Like, because you've already lost 4 or 5 years where you could have probably stayed and pushed on and then went over. I think they changed the rules now about going over the water.
Brexit now, a lot of the younger players are going to have to apply for visas. So a lot of the younger players in football now are heading to academies that aren't in Britain. They're heading to the continent. But I think, like you've just touched on there, once they've fallen out of love with it and they come back, where do they go? And I think where they should be going and where they should be welcomed is likely to the GAA.
You would think, just the community aspect of it. And but for them, they probably come back in the GAA going, that's breath of fresh air. Just without maybe the pressure. But even though, you know, we hype it up to be the biggest thing in the world, they've probably got that experience of, you know, professional soccer is you're either making the cut or you're not. Like, you're gone. This is make or break sort of stuff. Where they come to GAA, we're all hyping it up to be the biggest thing in the world. It's Sunday 3 o'clock is do or die, like, and they're going, happy days, I play a game here, get a couple of pints after. It's going to be great.
But I think by wishing them well and saying, like, look, best of luck with that, head over to England and play your soccer and play your GAA when they're younger, then they'll be more likely to come back and then participate in GAA when they come back.
100%.
And I see the same thing having worked in schools rugby. Like, there are some phenomenal athletes, phenomenal rugby players that they finish senior cup, which is the feckin' World Cup as far as they're concerned, and then after that they're like, nah, because they've lived like a professional for the last 2 years or whatever. So they just burn out. They're like, I'm not really arsed doing that again. They don't understand the value in playing team sports when you're older, and the community aspect to it and the working together towards something like you touched on, you don't get as much from individual sports. So like when you're in that dressing room, a GAA dressing room and a club dressing room, what does that offer to your life that makes you want to keep coming back for more, as aside from the medals and everything?
I think it comes back to the community aspect of being involved with the team that you don't get when you go across the water to maybe a higher level. Like that, being around friends, you know, going for coffees, food, the banter in the changing room, all of those things add up and just make it a much more enjoyable experience. And I suppose, again, club level football has probably gone close to what county was probably 7-8 years ago now. So you'd like to think we're not kind of losing that bit of community as well, and there's probably a danger of that. It's in some aspects in certain parts of Ireland more than others. Dublin.
I was just about to say, because we have spoken about it. Is that something that would be lost by players transferring to play in other clubs? Like, would you have a big problem with that from the outside looking in when you see that happening, or is it very much case dependent?
I think case dependent for a lot of it, but I think what we're talking about with Dublin and maybe Shane Moss, I think because of the profile of it, it's hyped up to be so much bigger, whereas you have players transferring all the time, and because maybe there isn't that sort of profile with it, it's nothing's really said about it. So I think it was maybe a bit unfair that way, but then again it comes back to maybe motivating factors behind it and all the rest. But listen, if someone's living in another part of the country and they're going to transfer, like, you totally get that. Like,
yeah. It's
because it's one of the best players transferring to one of the best teams.
Clubs. Yeah,
it's hard to, like, everyone's different. Like, personally, would I do that? I don't know. I don't think I would. I feel like I have a connection to my club, and that's what kind of drives me to play and win for my club. But again, I can't really speak. I haven't been in that situation yet, where I'm traveling massive distances to train with my club. But I think you do run the risk of losing that aspect within a club setting if you let it go too far. I think fair enough, maybe 1, 2, 3 players, but if you start to leak in towards half of your team being from other parts of the country, I think it seeps into everything you're doing, and you can lose that community aspect. You can lose the importance. Some lads might lose interest. Boys who are really big club men are playing for the club all their life, and suddenly they're not even getting playing because 3 or 4 lads have come from 3 hours down the road to play. Like, I think there's, as I said, I think you risk losing that community aspect.
If someone from another part of the country moved to either of your 2 parishes and joined to play with your club, how would you welcome them in?
I would.
Are they any good? No, listen, 100%. Like, come on, like, you're playing at the end of the day, and I'm sure they go to any club, they're going to be welcomed in. Like, you know, if they make an impact and they're playing well, then even better. Like, but I think, you know, anyone that has, you know, say they're coming from all around the country and they're living in Belfast and training with us or whatever, like they're always more than welcome. Like, so if any all stars want to, you know, make a move, hit me up and sure we'll have a chat.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't have much of a problem with it now if someone's far away from where they're actually from. They're living in your local area now. They're working. They might be in a relationship with someone from around the area. Then I've no issues with that at all. But as I said, once it starts, I think Dublin's kind of the one I'm hitting at the most. Just the way it's going and teams being just completely taken over from lads all around the country. It's just, I don't know. I just don't know about it.
From your experience in Dublin, Pete, do you feel the city has a big difference compared to, say, like rural Ireland, rural clubs in Ireland?
In terms of
The community aspect, in terms of where players are, is it still very parish related, or do you feel it's a lot more spread out?
I can only speak for, like, Thomas Davis is the club obviously I've been involved in, and I have heard multiple people say it to me from other clubs that Thomas Davis has a real country feel to it as a club. And obviously being from Tala, all the club members, and it being a smaller club and kind of punching up in terms of like its weight, in terms of participation levels versus your Ballybodens, your Kilmacoods, there is the strongest sense of community and togetherness that I have ever experienced in any club whatsoever. Like, it compares, in my perspective, it is probably above what I experienced at home in Roscrea.
Right.
Everything that goes on now, there are politics and that in every club, but like it seems to be all pushing and pulling for each other and really having each other's back. Whereas I saw it in Roscrea, and I haven't seen it in the last few years, but previously I used to look at my mates that were playing senior with Roscrea and wonder, and they're travelling the length of the country to play with the club. And I'd look at them and be like, why are you doing that? You're getting nothing but hardship out of everyone in the town because they weren't winning. Yeah. Now, maybe the difference is they won the Tipperary Championship last year, but I haven't seen it to an extent since. But maybe it's a case that if you're winning, it's worth it, and when you're losing, it's not worth it. But so I can only speak for Thomas Davis in Dublin, but I have seen from other clubs in Dublin that welcome in people from around the country. They're so welcoming to other people from around the country, because like the realistic thing is that majority of the jobs for a lot of people in Dublin area are going to be in Dublin. So if a fella is from Kerry or from Galway or from Mayo and they're working in Dublin, it's a 3-4 hour drive multiple times a week to go down and play with their club. So it's a huge commitment. So I know it's for the love of the game and for your community and your parish and all, but if you're losing, that's a hard old drive up and back. And the alternative to that is join a club that are going to welcome you in with open arms. But I have seen in other clubs where there's multiple, say, people from all over the country coming together, that some of the people actually from the club start getting pissed off because these lads are better than them and they start playing ahead of them. Right. So it becomes a point of contention. But I think it's very much how you use it and how you harness it, because you could very much be from one part of the country and join a different club. And like, I'm a Thomas Davis club man now, like for life, as they've said to me, like over the last few weeks when I've told them that I'm moving on, and I feel completely part of it and ingrained in that club. So not being from the local area is a secondary factor because of maybe what I've given and what they've seen me give and how welcoming they have been, I guess.
Yeah, I think I can actually relate to that a wee bit more now after being in America last summer, and we obviously went on, we won Chicago and North American, and that bond that we like created within the space of a couple of weeks was actually much greater than I thought it would be. And like the satisfaction I actually got from winning that was actually was massive. Like, so I suppose it's about the community that you end up with. Like, we ended up with a great group of lads, not an old cliche, but
Yeah.
it was a great group to be involved with, and that makes all the difference. So I suppose it depends on the community you're in. It's something I always would have thought. You have where you're from, that's your community. You win stuff with them, but I suppose if you move away, you create a bond with other groups. There's no harm in that either.
What I will say is two things can be true. And I can feel like a Thomas Davis Club man, but I was at that Tipperary County final roaring, nothing when Ross Gray were in it, because, okay, I know everybody in Thomas Davis for the last 3 years or whatever, but those lads that were playing for Ross Gray are lads that I was in primary school with and that played the whole way up. So you don't lose that. So you can feel part of two things and two clubs. And I don't see an issue with that, to be honest, but I do see how some people that wouldn't have experienced it wouldn't understand it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I suppose I've always been with my own club, and it's something that I can see even going in and coaching the odd team. I can see how you could come into it and how that could happen, but I just haven't experienced that myself either. I suppose maybe uni football, went to Jordanstown, that was good crack. You do make sort of good mates there in a short period of time, and it's very much you go play a match. You're probably taking the head of each other in a under 20s game or something, and then you play a match with them, and then you're going out that night or something. There's always good crack. A few Fermanagh screwballs.
I think we got a bad term from them Jordanstown teams. I wasn't involved, but from feedback now, a few boys might be listening and be laughing.
Aye, they know what we're on about.
But that happens everywhere as well. And we had Maddie in for an interview or a podcast episode earlier on, and obviously I've been coaching Killian O'Connor, and Killian speaks about how he's mates with Maddie from college, and in college there's multiple people from multiple different teams coming together to pull towards a common goal. So in a way that could happen at club level as well, I guess.
100%. I think it definitely.
Not that we want it to happen.
Not that we want it to happen, but I think the bit of variety's class. I went to Jordanstown at a stage where I was going to football doing my head, and I don't want to be. This is the last thing I want to be at. And then I went and played that, and it was a complete breath of fresh air. And I suppose it.
You said it first time that time.
I don't know. I must say that too often. But yeah, it was class getting to play, just completely refreshed, and just different things we pick up as well. I suppose if you have someone from the other part of the country coming in, and I know coaching clients here from Kerry playing in Dublin, I think it's a completely different game to what we're playing in Kerry, but then you get that experience from it too, and you can bring it, if in that scenario when you move back to your home club, you bring a different dimension to it as well.
Yeah.
External coaches coming in to coach a parish team or a county team. I was listening to Joe Brawley and Dion Fanning on the way up, great podcast episode, and they were talking about Mickey Hart going in with Derry. Both of you as players, if someone comes in, which they have come in, from a different county to coach you guys, do you see a problem with that? Or do you think that the person coaching the county has to be from the county, or person from the club coaches the club?
I don't think that is always going to be possible. Personally, when I think of my own club, we're a very small club. We're now at senior level championship. We don't have, no disrespect to coaches within my club, we don't have coaches that have been at that level and are experienced at that level. So kind of going out and getting coaches who have and is kind of fast tracking our progress and giving us a better chance of winning the senior championship. So at club level, I don't think so. At county level, I feel maybe more so that I like having a Fermanagh man in. I'm not sure why that is, but that's just, I don't know, I feel like that's my experience from it so far anyway. I feel like club, you've already got a really good bond and everyone's reeling towards the one, goal as it is. So having a coach in, I don't think impacts that. Whereas I feel like county level, it might impact it a wee bit more. I'm not sure why.
I'm on the opposite side of that. Firstly club, love people from the club coaching, I've had people from outside come in and coach. There's always been a club man there, but we have had outside coaches coming in as well, but got on the best with them too. I think it's what they bring, and if they bring quality and something, not even something different, just good quality and good standards, I'm all for it. I'm happy to love it. But my experience with the county, like our last two managers have been from outside the county, and I've really enjoyed what they've brought. Like, just the freshness, and I suppose you look at maybe what they've done in their own careers, either playing careers or even managing, coaching careers. It just brings, you know, you look at the track record and you go, right, they've been there and done it, and it just you're nearly bought in right away. And I think I like something from the outside too. Like, I think it's brings something fresh, and
Yeah.
they look at things in a different way. Whereas, yes, there can be those biases and all that, like, but I still believe, like, when someone comes in with a clean slate, like some stuff like we went through this year or last year, sorry, just passed, that you would have never called at the start of the year. But then, you know, some of the decisions and stuff are made, you'd be going, "Right, what's going on here?" But then, you know, it works out, and they can obviously see something that maybe our biases kind of we're blinded by, maybe. So I've had a real positive experience with that, like at county level.
I think I like having a bit of a mix now that I think about it. Like, you want the best coaches regardless. I think it'd be silly, you know, if you have access to some of the best coaches around the country to come in and improve you, and you're refusing to look outside. You want to just always keep in-house. But I feel like you do need at least 1 to 2 within the coaching setup that is within your county or within your club, because like
To understand.
the values and like the ambitions of the club and where the club's come from and why we're here and what we're doing it for. I think that's really important too.
Have you ever questioned whether that coach from outside the county is fully bought in?
Yes, I have. I'm
And
not
is
gonna
that the
name drop.
issue?
That can be an issue, I find. Not that like, oh, it's all their fault, but just naturally they're not going to be as, some of them aren't. Some of them are really like really buy in and straight away create a connection with you, and they're on your side and you feel it. Others, I have had doubts in the past, and just once you have, I think once that those doubts, it can be tough for that manager or that coach, because once those doubts seep into the group, then it kind of infests around the group and it causes issues then. So yeah, there's a bigger chance of that happening when it's someone from outside.
I'm trying to think about how I say this, but like, I don't know if buy-in was the right word for me, but I think it's maybe intentions in the right place, or
Yes.
just maybe the overall standard, or if they understand what is going on, as you say,
Yeah.
and maybe what's actually required. Yeah, it's a tricky one. There has been, obviously, like people do come in, you do have doubts and you do have questions, and you're kind of going, right, what's this? And I think as players too, you're very quick to spot wee things, and things start building up, and you can kind of spot a few things, and you're kind of going, right, something needs to be said here, something needs to be done. So you can definitely spot it, you can definitely see it, but I think when they know what's coming, when they sign up to a big job, like, they kind of they know what's kind of required of them. Like.
Yeah.
What do you look for? What do you spot that stands out as, he's not got the best intentions? And then conversely, what do you spot that shows that, oh, he is fully in here, he wants to win with us?
I think it's the wee small things, like organization is a big one. Setting up, knowing like we're going this into this, like that's massive. Just the attention to detail, being clued in, and just knowing what, from an organisation standpoint, from a tactic standpoint, from a skills standpoint, knowing what needs to be sort of be done, just having that know-how about you. I think it's hard to actually pick out wee fine things, but it's hard to pick out what you want, but it's easy to pick out what you don't want whenever you see it.
I think from my experience with it, someone who is there when you're losing just as much as they're there when you're winning is a big telltale sign for me. Like if a coach isn't involved within the count, like isn't a so-called county man or a club man, and shit starts to hit the fan, like are they standing up and taking front of it, or are they kind of starting to
pass blame,
remove themselves a bit from it because they're not actually part of that community, if that makes sense? Yeah, I've kind of picked up on that slightly just in the past.
It's all about accepting responsibility, really, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And like controlling what you can control, but trying to do your absolute best to win. And you spot when people are passing the buck, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe to say it out loud, because I don't know if it's what Owen is alluding to, but it's what almost sounds like is having aspirations of getting another job by taking one job. I know that's not what you're saying, but that is a big thing with a lot of coaches when they go in, is like, oh, this is a stepping stone, or that's the argument that's proposed, I guess, by the media, is he's not in it to win with this group. He's seeing it as working with a Division 4 team with the goal of ultimately getting a Division 3 team, with then getting a Division 2 team, and then hopefully in their mind coaching their home county in time.
Now that you say that, there's a few sort of light bulbs going off, but I would say we've actually had people come in that have been the opposite side of it, who have worked at a, especially in Antrim anyway, they've had people work at a far higher level and higher divisions coming, I suppose, down the divisions to us. I think because they see what we're trying to do and what we're like, there's potential there. So I can see, yes, definitely one side of it where people, you can see how people would see it as a stepping stone, and I feel you can see that has maybe been the case sometimes. But on the other side, there's been people who have come in who have worked in Division 1 teams and come in and helped us and gave us loads, like, and been fully bought in as well. It's been class, like that. You can tell they're fully invested, and just the level of stuff they go into is unreal. So you could definitely say how it works on both sides, like, yeah.
But if you're using it as a stepping stone, you're guaranteed to slip, because the only way that it can be an effective stepping stone is if you go in and you win. And you're not going to win if you're seeing it as the pathway to something greater. You have to be fully invested in what you're doing. And that's why, look, I understand that argument, but I don't understand like a coach going in and doing that. Because like the only way you get the maximum results and the maximum payoff down the line in terms of success is by focusing solely on the success in front of your face. Like if you go in and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to work with these for a year or two, avoid relegation or whatever, and then another team will come in and I'll transfer and I'll get a gig somewhere else, then nobody's going to come in for you, mate, because you're probably going to fail at what you're facing or what you're looking towards. So, like, in relation to other staff, not just head coaches, players and whatnot, we've talked about transferring, but I'm sure there's a lot of S&C coaches and therapists and physios and whatnot that go in and out of an inter-county setup, and you've seen a lot of them. What are the common characteristics of those that are fully bought in and successful, and which characteristics have you seen from those that haven't been successful in getting buy-in from players?
I think from my perspective, again, it's just that organisation, attention to detail, time that they're willing to give you and invest, and you know, they're happy to have conversations with you. They're trying to develop a sort of culture there, and they're, you know, educating you along the way and having those relationships with you and taking the time to speak to people. I think that's massive.
I think, yeah, player relationships, like one-to-one player relationships is important with that sort of thing. Going over and above what is probably expected goes a long way. Touching base out of the blue sometimes with players can go a long way as well, I suppose, to creating that connection. I'd say that's probably, like, they're the telltale signs when you know someone's really invested and when they're not. And you can also tell, you know, it's not just about touching base, but it's about kind of the finer details of what they're actually looking to know. You can kind of figure out quickly if someone's just throwing you a generic check-up message either, when it comes to coaches or whatever it is. So yeah, that connection is key, I think, when it comes to long, like, a coach having that relationship.
You need to know that they care.
Yes.
And that's how you know if they're invested or not, and whether you want to trust them. Have there been coaches or practitioners that you've worked with that you feel like didn't care?
Yeah.
And when you decided, or when you figured out that they didn't care, how quickly were you bought out or out of the relationship as such?
Yeah, pretty quickly when you pick it up and you realise, and you sort of see through it a wee bit, and you're just another number. Maybe things are they're stuck in, like, nothing's going to change when you realize, right, nothing's changing here, and it's not serving yourself, it's not serving the team, yourself from a physical standpoint or from a playing standpoint to give you the best possible chance of performing. Then it's like, right, you know, I think it's hard to kind of restore that again. Like,
Yeah, I'd find the same. You can kind of sense it fairly early. Not that I've had much experience with it, to be honest. A lot of coaches who have had involved, especially at county level, like they are in it to help you. But as Owen said, if you do get a sense of that, it's nearly, it just takes away so much from your actual drive to get better. When you're doubting coaches that are around you, it kind of comes from within. Then you kind of have to drive it a lot. But again, haven't had much experience with that.
Do you think that is why there is such, I don't want to use the word drain, but some counties have a lot of players that are outsourcing for their S&C, rehab, RTP, all of this type of stuff, because they've figured out that maybe the coaching in question doesn't have the time to put into them. And if so, how is that best navigated by the coaching setup? Do you reckon they should be completely open to fresh perspectives? And then in relation to your own experience, has there ever been a case where they haven't been open to fresh perspectives?
you take this one, you're probably going through that at the minute, are you?
Well, to an extent, yeah. I don't know. It's a difficult one to answer that. I don't really want to go into too much detail when it comes to talking about coaches and setups, because, you know, again,
It's
we're
not
still
fair, like,
we're still within setups, and there's still coaches that are within setups. So
I'll take over if you want, mate.
go on ahead there. Shout yourself here.
You keep yourself sweet. No, I've had it from both perspectives, but I think it's what you said. Like, you know, you look at an S&C coach. We spoke about it a couple of episodes ago, where there were so many different hats they have. They're looking after the program, and they're looking after actually being there and coaching. They're running everything behind it. They're looking at data, like feeding back to coaches, like so much going on. So, and they're looking after maybe 40 plus lads, like. So I totally get that, you know, things can maybe slip, or things can not even slip, just you mightn't get in your head you're the most important person in the world, and if you're not getting what you feel is necessary attention, there can be a disconnect there. So I totally get when people go and outsource, and maybe they see something, or they get trust in some other process, or they have another process that they feel will work really well for them. And I think in my experience, as long as that's working well and it's being communicated and everyone's open to it, and the communication is key, because I've been on the other side of it, where I have been working externally and within the county setup, and the communication was kind of off. One page was with one person, on another page with someone else, and then me in the middle trying to communicate everything and bring it all together, and just wasn't adding up. So, and then I pulled the pin on that pretty quickly. But I think communication is key. I think everyone understanding, everyone being on the same page, and everyone having the same goal and the same understanding of where you're trying to get to, I think it can work really well. But again, as long as it's being done in the right way and communicated. But I can also see, if people get free rein to go and do whatever they want to do, you know, there can be people that would take advantage of that and not do what's maybe required.
Prescribed, yeah.
I think, like, I suppose I can relate to that quite a lot this year, just with my own issues and trying to figure out what was actually going on. And I was jumping gun and going down loads of different rabbit holes, but I was also communicating it with the physios and the S&Cs and the managers, what I was doing. I was doing this, trying to find out this. And like, once the communication was there and I was explaining why I was doing certain things and going to see different people, it was 100%. Like, there was no questions really, or it's just about trying to get better and trying to improve my own situation as much as I could. So I think communication's the biggest thing.
From a coach perspective, I was about to say the exact same thing, that the common missing factor is the communication and openness between all of the people invested. So with any athletes that I'm returning to play or rehabbing, I'll always say to them, tell your physio, drop me an email or a message. Here's my WhatsApp. Tell them to shoot me a message. Or the head coach, and a handful of them will reach out to see what the story is and see what I'm thinking. The ones that reach out and then we jump on a call and talk, those athletes are the ones that most commonly are the ones that return to play. I won't even say return to play, they return to performance better than they had been when they got injured, because everybody's on the same page in regards to everything. Whereas if the communication is coming from the athlete, and you're lucky in a sense that you both have a background in S&C, like, and physical preparation, but sometimes they don't. The athlete has no clue what you're talking about. And the language that is given to the athlete, or the information that is given, is then bastardized by the athlete and presented to the physio or presented to the head coach, and they're saying, sure, that doesn't make any sense at all. That fella hasn't a clue what he's talking about. So then they're just saying, you're grand, go out and train. Yes. And then the athlete gets injured again. Yeah. So openness is what I think is needed by any practitioner, and an openness to know that you don't know everything.
Yeah, that's key. Yeah, I think the openness to be open-minded and that you don't have all the answers. And I suppose I don't know if it's humble or maybe like dropping the ego, and that it's okay for a player under your watch, so to speak, to be able to work with someone else and still be part of your setup. With coaches, like, there's been times where maybe a club program's been put in place, and I've been working with a coach elsewhere, and everyone's been doing this club program, but I'm like, listen, I've been working with this coach for the last number of months, and I want to keep doing it, and I'm happy to do that. Like, as long as they know, right, you're doing the work, you're doing the right thing, that's okay. Like, I know there's been a lot of times with lads I've been chatting to where maybe club managers are going, I'm finishing up, we have to do this program, we have to do that, and I'm sitting going, why? Yeah, it's like, listen, I understand you don't want to cause friction or whatever, but like, you're going to be better served doing what you've been doing, and it's been working so well for you. Like, I would hate to see it going the other direction. Like,
some athletes respond to the same stimulus of training differently. So some athletes love getting barbells on them. Their bodies love getting barbells on them, and they get really, really strong. And others don't need to get a barbell on them as often. Like, they'll retain the high level of strength. They need some additional maybe plyometrics or reactivity. And oftentimes, if a club is given a broadcast program and said, everybody do this, some of the athletes are going to respond really, really well to it. Some of them not so well, and some of them poorly. So if your coach or your physio or whatever isn't as available to individualize slightly the program, then it's probably time that you did outsource to somebody else to get what you need, because that's what you need as an athlete, what's going to put you in the best position to perform on the field. And oftentimes a certain program isn't going to suit a certain type of athlete.
I think that's just a gap in terms of like the coaches realizing what the program is there for and how it's going to help. A lot of coaches now just think, right, are you doing your gym work? Okay, that's it. That's just, are you doing it or are you not? Yeah. Whereas there's just so much detail that needs to go into it if you really want to maximize it. And throwing blankets over it and just throwing everything, the same thing at everyone, can actually sometimes be detrimental and go the opposite way for some players. So I suppose it's bridging that gap and improving the knowledge, I suppose, of management and coaches as to why you're doing things and why players need different approaches. And if that is an athlete who is individually working with other coaches, they kind of need to communicate that as well.
You get it on the pitch as a coach as well, in terms of when I put them into their groupings for their conditioning, and there might be different distances or whatever, or I'll pull an athlete out when they're cooked and their proficiency or their movement pattern kind of has degraded and they're not moving well, I'll pull them out. The head coach or some of the coaches come over, why are you dropping him out? He needs more running. Yeah, but he's running like shit. Like, that's no good to him. And then sometimes I might have somebody doing some tempo running, like extensive tempo, and then another fella, as you're going to learn about in the coming weeks, doing some dribble conditioning or repeat speed. And the question will be like, well, why are they all not doing that? That looks way harder. So they should be all doing the hard thing. And it's because different players need different things.
What's your thoughts on like bringing in that extremely tough side of conditioning as well. Like in my opinion, obviously, like you need to be making sure lads, as you say, aren't running like shit all the time, because it's just going to cause them more harm than good. But then obviously there's a side to it where mentally lads need that slog to feel like they're fit. Would you strike that balance?
I strike that balance by identifying early days in the season when our periods of low stress are in relation to matches,
Yeah.
and identifying when our days that we're going to push them hard are going to be. Because obviously I would be fairly on the side of maybe a quality lens, or wanting things to be high quality, to rep them at high quality so you can do more of them rather than just quantity and volume. However, the fact of the matter is that a lot of teams and a lot of players, as you said, feel like mentally they need to go through hard things to feel like they've worked hard so that they feel fit. And from conversations with Daniel Moore, who, if any of you are looking him up, you will find him. He's the ghost on social media, but very, very high level coach. Going through hard things builds togetherness and builds resilience of a group. So it is necessary to go through some very, very hard, dogged sessions throughout the year, but you don't want those dogged sessions to impact the quality of the training thereafter. And I still, because of my lens, I still like those high stress, high volume, dogged sessions to be somewhat relevant to the game as well and to the task. So I think there is a balance to be struck there, but it's a fine balance, especially at club level, where if somebody gets injured or a few lads get injured, like, you're not replacing them with anyone.
Yeah. I think it's still a problem at club level, is that balance between hard and probably medium to low level sessions. You'd still typically see in the build up of pre-seasons and in seasons within, from what I see anyway, you still see dogging sessions on a extremely regular basis. Lads coming off just completely bollocks, like, and yeah, it's still, there's still a gap there to be filled at club level. I feel anyway, with probably most counties in Ireland. Maybe I could be wrong in that aspect too.
Every county in Ireland, doggedness is still pervasive in terms of the harder it is and the more of it we do, the better we do.
Yeah.
Whereas it's literally, when you actually look at it properly, it's the footballing side of things that are letting majority of teams down.
Yeah. Like when you get to the semi-finals, final stage, it's never like, oh, that team won because they're fitter than the other team. It's, well, that team won because the other team couldn't fucking knock a ball over the bar to save their life.
Yeah.
Like, they couldn't create any chances. They couldn't break down that blanket defence. So I think that's where the GAA has to go. It needs to focus on developing game plans and developing skill sets within training by having a structured overall periodized plan throughout the year to lead towards the game and how you want to play. And you can do that as well and still lose.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think your chances of winning are greater if you do that.
Yeah. I think it's that, I think the best way to sum it up is GAA just loves that middle, high intensity, high effort, come off feeling fucked, feeling the breath, like heavy lungs, feel it in the back of your throat. They just love that feeling. And even coaching people, you're trying to explain, listen, if you can gradually build up this low intensity volume and get the good amount of that through, it might be boring, it might not be very fast, but you know, for conditioning, that's going to do a lot for you, and you're still getting your speed over here. Yes, sprinkling in wee bits and pieces of this, but like, it's like, I need to be fucked, I need to be running to the ground, I need to be doing heavy weights, I need to come out on, like, and you're just going, that's probably your problem. Like, you're just constantly fried and fatigued. That's why you're feeling like shit and you're all, I'm not fit enough. Like, no, you probably are. You're just not giving yourself a chance to be fresh, to show that stuff. Like,
and then people end up going further down that rabbit hole. They're already fatigued, they're already burnt out, and they're like, I'm not fit, I need to do more tough sessions. And it's hard to communicate to them that isn't what they need, that it's actually probably more, as you say, of the low intensity stuff, building that base, and probably pulling things back so you can actually reset. Yeah.
But that stuff that we're just talking about, where it's not high intensity because they're doing too much of it.
It's mid.
It's just in the middle.
It's the middle zone. Yeah.
So they're missing both the high intensity and the low. But the easier thing is to take out that middle, do a little bit of low for a while, so you can actually push high when you're doing your high days. And that's what I was speaking about when you asked the question. Make those high days fucking high.
days.
Yeah. I was actually listening to a podcast there on the way up the road about like anaerobic, and most people think they're in anaerobic, but they're not even close to it. Like with anaerobic, it is max out efforts. It's recruiting your fast twitch muscle fibers. And when you're getting slogged in a game or in training or doing 20 on, 20 off runs, or you're just, a lot of the time you think you're maxing out, but you're really not. You're just out of breath and tired. So you're probably losing out on both sides of the coin at times. And that's, I suppose it's the culture that's been built up within Gaelic football for the last 20 years. So changing that's going to be a bit of a challenge.
That's why we're all in it, isn't it?
100%. And I think a lot of us have clicked on that, and I think everything goes through cycles and waves. And from what I've been seeing over the last wee while, I think it is going towards sort of gradually building up volume, lower intensities, and people understand that. As Matty said in the last podcast, we've never seen as much people with Achilles, hamstring, tendon issues. So I'm sure a lot of the high intensity, the high load, the high stress, fatigue is having a lot to do with that. So I think it's only a matter of time where it starts to scale back. And I suppose we're going in the right direction, but with anything, sometimes you have to mess up a few things. Not even mess up, just, as I said earlier, burn the steak. Like sometimes you have to go too far in one direction. It's a classic case of if some is good, more must be better. But in reality, it's if some is enough, then why do more? And just being sensible with what's being done. So I think we are going to go in the right direction.
Yeah. Hopefully,
that's what we're all change the world.
The three of us. Thanks for coming in again today, guys. Great episode 3 on the books. We'll be back for another one, I'm sure.
100%.
Cheers.